Urban legends usually begin as warnings, stories passed quietly, repeated without sources, and dismissed as exaggeration. Most fade with time, but a few don't, because parts of them were real, not supernatural, not imagined. This video looks at 5 urban legends that crossed the line from rumor into documented reality, starting off with the Hookman, Texarkana. In the mid-1940s, residents of Texarkana began hearing the same warning repeated in different forms. Couples were told not to park on back roads. A man was said to be attacking people at night. In later retellings, the details changed. A hook, a scraping sound, a narrow escape. At the time, the story was treated as rumor. Between February and May of 1946, a series of real attacks took place around Texarkana. The victims were young couples. They were targeted late at night. Most were attacked near parked cars on isolated roads. The attacker used sudden violence. In some cases, victims were forced out of their vehicles. In others, shots were fired without warning. 5 people were killed. Several others survived with injuries. The attacks caused widespread fear. Police increased patrols. Residents avoided driving at night. Firearms sales increased. The attacker was never caught. Investigators referred to the suspect as the Phantom Killer. Witness descriptions varied. Some reported a masked man. Others could not identify him at all. Weapons were inconsistent. No usable fingerprints were recovered. No suspect was conclusively linked. After May 1946, the attacks stopped. No arrest followed. No confession surfaced. No explanation was recorded. The case remained open. Over time, the details blurred. What stayed were the warnings. Teenagers were told not to park. Parents repeated the story without dates or names. The killer became fictionalized, but the original file never changed. 5 deaths. No suspect, no resolution. The murders ended. The record did not.
Next up, we have Cropsey, Staten Island. For years, children on Staten Island grew up hearing the same story. A figure lived near abandoned buildings. He watched from wooded areas. He took children who wandered too far. The name varied by neighborhood. Cropsey. It was treated as a scare tactic, a story told to keep kids close to home. The places linked to the legend were real: old psychiatric hospitals, overgrown lots, shuttered facilities that once housed vulnerable people. In the 1970s and 1980s, several children from Staten Island went missing. Some were never found. Police opened investigations. Searches were conducted. No immediate pattern was confirmed. The disappearances were handled as separate cases. At the same time, a local man was becoming known to authorities. Andre Rand had worked at institutions on Staten Island, including facilities for children. He lived a transient life. He was frequently seen near abandoned hospital grounds. Parents recognized him. Children recognized him. He matched the figure described in the stories. In the late 1980s, human remains were discovered near locations associated with Rand. Evidence linked him to the disappearance of a young girl. He was arrested and later convicted of kidnapping and murder. Further investigations connected him circumstantially to other missing children. Some cases resulted in convictions. Others remained unresolved. Rand denied many of the accusations. The full number of victims was never conclusively established. What changed was the context. The stories had not described a monster. They had described a presence, someone who lingered near forgotten places, someone who was noticed but not taken seriously. The legend did not predict specific crimes. It outlined a pattern. A man near abandoned institutions, children disappearing nearby, a community uneasy but uncertain. By the time convictions were secured, the name Cropsey had already been passed down for decades. The folklore didn't invent the danger. It absorbed it. Police files replaced rumor. Court records replaced whispers. Some questions were answered, others were not. The legend stopped evolving. The cases did not. Third urban legend that became reality is what all parents still warn their kids about:
The Man with Candy, Houston. For years, parents warned children about a vague figure, a man who offered candy, a man who promised money, a man who should be avoided. The warning was generic. It had no name, no location. It was treated as precaution, not description. In the early 1970s, teenagers began disappearing in Houston, Texas. Most were boys, most vanished quietly. Many were assumed to have run away. Police opened missing person files. Few leads followed. At the center of the disappearances was a man named Dean Call. He lived in a modest house. He ran a candy business. He was known to neighborhood children. Call did not work alone. He enlisted teenage accomplices. He paid them to bring boys to his home. The invitations were casual: money, alcohol, a place to hang out. Once inside, the victims did not leave. Between 1970 and 1973, Call murdered at least 28 young men. The actual number is unknown. Some bodies were buried in remote locations, others were hidden on a nearby beach. The disappearances were not immediately connected. There were no witnesses, no pattern recognized by authorities. Families searched independently. The case came to light in August 1973. One of Call's accomplices killed him during an argument. Police were contacted afterward. What followed was not speculation, it was documentation. Investigators were led to burial sites. Remains were recovered. Identifications were made. Names replaced rumors. Parents learned what had happened to sons long believed missing. Some had been gone for years. The investigation closed many files at once, but it did not open earlier ones. Questions remained. Why the disappearances were dismissed? Why no connection was made sooner? Why warnings were treated as folklore? The man parents warned about had existed, not as a monster, not as a legend, as a neighbor. The crimes ended the night Call died. The damage did not. What had once been a general warning was suddenly specific, too late to prevent anything, just early enough to be remembered. Next on the list is the online predator, Kansas and Missouri. In the late 1990s, a new warning began to circulate. People were told to be careful online. Strangers were not who they claimed to be. Chat rooms were dangerous. At the time, it sounded exaggerated. The internet was new. Most interactions felt distant. Stories about hidden predators were treated as paranoia. Behind the screens, one man was already operating. John Edward Robinson presented himself as multiple people online. He used aliases. He fabricated entire identities. Robinson contacted women through chat rooms and early message boards. He offered jobs. He offered relationships. He offered stability. The conversations were deliberate. They were patient. They were convincing. Women traveled to meet him. Some never returned. Between the mid-1980s and 2000, Robinson murdered at least 8 people. The true number may be higher. The crimes spanned years and locations. They did not initially appear connected. Victims were isolated from families. Communication stopped gradually. Disappearances were explained away. The online element delayed recognition. Accounts could be deleted. Names could change. Locations could be falsified. The case began to unravel in 2000. Robinson was arrested on fraud charges. During the investigation, storage units connected to him were searched. Inside, police found human remains. Further searches followed. More victims were identified. The online personas collapsed under examination. What had seemed like separate disappearances became a single pattern. Court records documented years of deception. Emails and messages were recovered. Aliases were traced. Robinson was convicted of multiple murders. The case confirmed something new. The danger was not in the technology itself, it was in how easily trust could be manufactured. The warnings had not been about the future, they had been descriptions of something already happening. By the time the case became public, the behavior it warned about had already ended. The record was complete, the realization was not. Last on the list is Charlie No-Face, Pennsylvania. For decades, people in western Pennsylvania told the same story. A faceless figure walked along a dark road at night. He avoided crowds. He disappeared when cars approached. Teenagers drove out to look for him. Some claimed sightings, others treated it as a dare. The figure was called Charlie No-Face, sometimes the Green Man. The story was passed along without explanation. Behind the legend was a real person.
Raymond Robinson was severely disfigured as a child after a high-voltage electrical accident. He lost his eyes, nose, and much of his face. He survived. As an adult, Robinson lived quietly. He avoided daylight. He walked at night to avoid attention. The roads he used were rural and poorly lit. Passing drivers saw only a silhouette. Headlights caught details they weren't prepared for. Stories formed quickly. Some said he glowed. Others said he was not human. The details changed with each retelling. Police were aware of Robinson. He was not violent. He was not dangerous. He committed no crimes. When people harassed him, officers sometimes escorted him home for his safety. The legend grew anyway. The man remained the same. Robinson continued his nightly walks for years. He spoke to locals who treated him kindly. He avoided those who didn't. There was no incident that exposed the truth all at once. No investigation that revealed a hidden crime. The story faded slowly. After Robinson's death, the sightings stopped. The road became quiet. The legend lost its subject. What had been treated as something unnatural was never that. It was a man living around the edges of public view. The story ended not with discovery, but with absence. When the walking stopped, so did the legend. Most unsettling thing about all these cases is that the story was already being told. No one recognized it as a description. By the time they did, it was finished.